Allen & Company wishes OOIDA and all members a safe, healthy, and joyous holiday season.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Scott here in for Mark today. In a moment, we'll check in on the latest trucking news of the day. After that, we'll take a trip up to the Northeast for a tradition that dates back more than 50 years in Boston. The province of Nova Scotia has once again gifted the city its Christmas tree, an annual thank you for the assistance Boston provided more than 100 years ago during a time of need. We speak with the man who hauled the tree from the Maritimes to Massachusetts. After that, we'll answer all the questions you might have about securing insurance when you get your own authority with the help of OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department. And finally, Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office joins the show with a look at the two candidates vying to lead the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee moving forward. He'll also tell us about a new push for better broker transparency rules. So lots to get to on today's show. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. Diesel dropped 8 cents from a week ago. The Energy Information Administration says the national average is now at $3.45 a gallon. The EIA reported drops in all 10 regions it covers. The biggest was in the Rocky Mountain region, which saw a 10-cent dip. ProMiles.com had the Tuesday morning average at $3.45 a gallon, down 2 cents from the same day last week. The ups and downs of the market after a holiday are on cue with what TruckStop typically sees from year to year. Brent Hutto with TruckStop says the marketplace is doing well as far as the amount of freight goes. He says rates went up 2 cents week over week.
Had a big increase in the van marketplace of 5 cents up to 207. Flatbed just went up 1 penny. Refrigerated, who had taken a big hit 2 weeks ago, went up 8 cents. So, here's my point about the up, down, up, down. This marketplace is going to do that as it continues to gain strength because all marketplaces do. If you ever look at like a Wall Street, stock thing, it goes up and down and up and down. You just want to make sure it's kind of going up and to the right as it goes up and down because all supply and demand marketplaces do that. The good news is that the outbound tender reject index, which is the contract marketplace, which is the dominance of this full truckload freight that we all love to haul and have our businesses around, is it still stayed above 6%, which is good. That means more and more freight will continue to come into the spot market, which means owner-operators, whether you're van, flatbed, refrigerated, specialized, oversized, overdimensional, hot shot, whatever it is, you're going to have more choice, which is good.
Hutto says they want to stay above 5%, which means more freight will come into the spot market, which will cause rates to go up. The owner of a Colorado company was sentenced this week for violating the Clean Air Act. According to the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Colorado, Elite Diesel, Inc., formerly located in Windsor, Colorado, and its owner, Troy Lake Sr., were sentenced after pleading guilty to conspiring to violate the Clean Air Act. This was done by disabling the monitoring components of the emission control systems on hundreds of heavy-duty commercial trucks throughout the country. According to the plea agreements from 2017 through 2020, Elite and Lake instructed employees to disable the computerized onboard diagnostic systems on at least 344 heavy-duty commercial trucks. OBDs are required under the Clean Air Act to monitor emission control hardware on vehicles to ensure they are functioning properly. Lake was sentenced to 12 months and 1 day in custody and a fine of $2,500. Elite was sentenced to a 5-year term of probation and ordered to pay a fine of $37,500. Elite was also ordered to make a payment of $12,500 to a program operated by the Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment to repair the emission control systems on vehicles owned by low-income drivers who cannot afford to bring their vehicles into compliance. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg highlighted 18 of the most economically significant bridges that are being rebuilt or repaired across the country. Back in 2021, President Biden announced that funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law would go towards fixing up 10 of the most economically significant bridges in the nation to improve safety and efficiency, as well as strengthen supply chains. 3 years later, the Biden-Harris administration surpassed that goal. 18 bridges were awarded a U.S. Department of Transportation grant of $100 million or more. According to a release, these bridges are crossed by more than 1.2 million vehicles a day and an estimated 57.2 million trucks annually. In an effort to reduce the number of collisions, injuries, and fatalities on roads in Canada, the government announced funding for road safety projects. This week, the Government of Canada announced 35 new projects across the country that will receive funding through the Enhanced Road Safety Transfer Payment Program. $14.6 million will go to fund road safety projects that focus on driver assistance systems, alcohol and drug-impaired driving, distracted driving, winter road conditions, speeding, as well as young drivers and vulnerable road users. A lawmaker in Arkansas is hoping to provide a unique reward for commercial truck drivers who report human trafficking. The Arkansas Times reports that Representative Steve Unger filed a bill that would provide the option for a free lifetime hunting and fishing license to truck drivers who are residents and provide certain information related to human trafficking. The goal of the bill is to raise awareness and encourage drivers to share information. The 9th General Assembly will convene on January 13th of next year. $61.4 million will go toward building truck climbing lanes along Interstate 81 in Augusta and Rockingham counties in Virginia. The state's Department of Transportation announced that the Commonwealth Transportation Board was awarded the funding last week. Construction is expected to begin early next year. This project is part of the I-81 Corridor Improvement Program to unlock I-81 by enhancing safety and reliability, reducing congestion, and supporting economic growth. And finally, the Boston Common is looking festive thanks to the annual Christmas tree that was lit last week. The tree holds a long-lasting tradition between the city of Boston and the province of Nova Scotia. Blake Sardi works for the province and had the pleasure of hauling the tree from Nova Scotia to Boston. He explained why this yearly exchange is done.
Back we had two ships collide in the harbor here in Halifax, and it pretty much devastated the downtown area at that time, and Boston sent up train cars of supplies, medical aid, doctors, nurses to assist with the injuries and the devastation that they were dealing with. So just as a little thank you, they started sending down a Christmas tree to be lit up at this time of year, just as a little appreciation.
This is the second year Sardi got to deliver the tree, and he said the trip was just as enjoyable as last year.
Well, a lot of questions, like we'll stop at different spots, and it'll be, like some people don't know what the significance of the tree is. So, like then you explain out to them about the explosion and how Boston helped us out, like I said. And like a lot of people ask you what the welcome's like in Boston, which is phenomenal. I mean, they're just really pleased and thrilled to see the tree arrive, right?
To hear more from Sardi and the story of the Boston Christmas tree, stay tuned to later in our show. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. For updates on these stories and more from the trucking industry 24/7, check out our website, landline.media. From reporting and opinion pieces to pretty much anything in between, check it all out at landline.media. Marty Ellis and the Spirit of the American Trucker will be at the Gaspers Travel Plaza in Kingdom City, Missouri through Thursday. That's off Interstate 70 and US 54 to the east of Columbia. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA at a discount. Coming up next, we'll check in with the man who hauled the Boston Commons Christmas tree from Canada. It's a good talk. It's up next, so hang tight. Landline Now returns in just a moment.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, Look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit CapitalReman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. It's been 107 years since two ships collided in the Halifax Harbor in Nova Scotia, Canada, killing nearly 2,000 people. In the aftermath of this tragic event, the city of Boston sent medical aid, supplies, and support to the city of Halifax. Now, more than a century later, the province continues to say thank you by sending a Christmas tree to Boston. Blake Sardi works for the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works. I recently spoke with him about what it was like to haul the tree from the Maritimes to Massachusetts.
Pretty much after last year, they informed me that I would be the lucky one again. They sort of, once they get somebody into the routine and how everything works, they like to keep you there, right? So,
you did such a good job the first time, so.
Well, yes, they invited me back one more time, yeah.
I kind of want to backtrack for those listening who may not know the story of how Boston gets its Christmas tree. Can you give me a little bit of an overview? It comes from Nova Scotia every year. Talk to me about why that happens.
Back we had two ships collide in the harbor here in Halifax, and it pretty much devastated the downtown area at that time. And Boston sent up train cars and supplies, medical aid, doctors, nurses to assist with the injuries and the devastation that they were dealing with. So just as a little thank you, they started sending down a Christmas tree to be lit up at this time of year, just as a little appreciation.
Do you know how many years it's been going on?
It's been 100+ years.
100+ years. Wow.
Yeah.
And how did it come about? You hauled it last year. You got to do it this year. How did that all come about?
Here, quite a few years ago, the Nova Scotia Public Works started using our own people to haul it down. And like you say, every year since, we've continued to do it. It just makes it a lot easier for us getting things lined up, doing it ourselves, because there is a lot of, setting it up and scheduling and all this type of stuff, right? So it works out really good. And we work for what they call a provincial outfit, so we're used to traveling all over the province. So we sort of get to be the lucky ones to be chosen.
And this is this isn't you just picking up a tree and heading to Boston. Like this is a big ordeal.
It is. I mean, they spend, I'm saying, about 3 days just tying the tree, getting it prepped, ready to go, and then it's like a year long to be able to pick a tree. People will put in their tree and then they go look at it, say yes, no, or, where it is and ease to get it so we can load it and stuff like that. So, it's basically started now already for next year's tree.
Now, this year's tree, the tree doesn't necessarily just come from Halifax. It's kind of anywhere all over Nova Scotia, right?
It's all over Nova Scotia, yeah. Last year, it come from Shubenacadie, and this year it come up from Monastery Way. We've hauled them out of Cape Breton. It's all over the province. They try to sort of get it from different geographical areas in the province, So.
Do you know what they're looking for specifically in the tree?
What they're normally looking for is a white spruce, and and the height of it, the 45 to 50 foot tree is what they're looking for, and if it's got a decent shape to it, cosmetic look and appearance,
And this year, where did you pick it up at?
Just outside of Monastery, Nova Scotia.
Do you get to chat with the family that grew it?
I didn't get to talk to them myself because when we get there to load it, they're pretty much involved in the media talking to them and, stuff like that, right? So, yeah, it's quite a sentimental, because like this tree is in their yard for, 50 years, and it's being cut down and stuff. Yeah.
Mm.
There's a few tears shed, I guess.
I'm sure there is. Yeah, I'm sure there is. But it's kind of a neat cause that it's going to. Do you find people are surprised that it's, this tradition, I mean, this has been going every year. It didn't even skip COVID, did it?
No, it didn't. No, when COVID was on, we couldn't take it ourselves, so we shipped it down by container, yeah, we always found a way to get it down to them, so they've never missed a year.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. I'm curious, what kind of questions do you get when, from last year to this year, what kind of questions do you get along the route when you're hauling this?
Well, a lot of questions, like we'll stop at different spots and it'll be, like some people don't know what the significance of the tree is. So, like then you explain out to them about the explosion and how Boston helped us out, like I said. And like a lot of people ask you what the welcome's like in Boston, which is phenomenal. I mean, they're just really pleased, thrilled to see the tree arrive, right?
And I know there's different events set up kind of throughout the route. Is that right? Like I know in Nova Scotia, there's quite a few events. Yes,
yeah. Like when we first cut the tree and load it, like we stop at a couple local schools, elementary schools, just so the children can have a look at the tree and touch it. We set up at one of the malls here when Santa Claus shows up, and they hand out little tree saplings that people can take home and plant. We have a tree lighting ceremony, which unfortunately this year got rained out, and there's a parade of lights, which unfortunately it was a week late, so we didn't get to win it, but Amherst, the last little town before we leave Nova Scotia, has a little send-off for the tree, quite nice.
And is there kind of a ceremony at the border when it goes across, or?
Not generally at the border, no. We did for the 100th anniversary of taking it down. They had quite a little ceremony at the border, but like we had a family that reached out to us, wanted to know if they could meet us at the border, which they did, like there was 8 to 10 people showed up, just a little thank you, had their picture taken with the tree, Even though they lived in the state of Maine, they were from Nova Scotia originally.
And how did you feel this year getting to haul it again?
Oh, I'll tell you, just every year I get excited. It's just, I can't wait for it to come around because just everybody coming together, and the warmth and the welcoming you get, it's just, like you say, I really look forward to it. Hopefully I keep doing it every year from here on in.
And how is this different from, I mean, I know you work for the province, but I mean, how is this different from kind of your other work that you do?
It's just, I guess, the travel around, meeting different people and hearing their stories. Like you might run across somebody that their relative was involved in the Halifax explosion. I mean, there's not too many left, but, and they'll tell their story about what happened to their great-grandfather or whatever, right? So it's nice. And like on your way down, you'll have people coming up and, well, I'm from Nova Scotia. Can I have my picture taken, with the tree? It's just, it's quite nice.
Wow. What are people's reactions like when, they don't know the story and you kind of give them a quick snippet of how long this has been going on and why it happens? What's usually their reaction?
Their reaction is they're quite surprised because, like you say, it's not that really well known, and this is why this is good to keep it fresh in people's mind. Like they're just in awe that Nova Scotia will do this every year, and for so many years they have done it.
And obviously no plans to stop.
No plans to stop. No.
It is a very maritime thing to do. Like it's just it's a sweet kind of story to cover every year, but it's just such a, I don't know, it is really kind of a unique thing. I've never heard in my travels of any other kind of situation like this, so it is kind of unique.
Yes, it is. And everybody loves to get involved. Like we have some of my coworkers, like they'll donate their time. Like we all just donate our time, and like they'll come in and help us decorate the tree, and clean up the truck and trailer, getting it ready to go, and just to be involved, just to be a little part of it,
Yeah, talk to me about what the tree looks like. Obviously, our listeners aren't in just listening, but I had seen a few TikToks, and it's decorated, like you had said. Talk to me about what it looks like.
Like when it's decorated, like when it lands in Boston?
Well, I mean, like I know that you have the flag on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like talk to me, I guess, what it looks like when it's on the trailer.
Oh, yeah, like you say, when it's all wrapped, it still has the appearance of a tree, and then we string lights on it to sort of highlight the outline of the tree, with the Christmas lights on, the flag, like we'll put a star on the top of it. Like you say, it's just to try to get it to stand out and pop.
Is it fun driving down the road? And I mean, although people should be paying attention to themselves driving, I'm sure you see some people get distracted by it.
You do a little bit, but not to that. Most people, which it's kind of strange you mentioned that, because I had somebody take a video of me at the New Hampshire toll booth, which they passed me, and the passenger was taking a video when they went by, and they actually pulled off on the side of the road and took a video of me driving through the toll booth.
Wow.
Like there's a lot of people, like you say, will go by you, and then they'll pull over and get a short video of it driving down the road.
Neat. And you kind of touched on this, but what is it like to arrive in Boston? How does that go?
Oh, it's just like you say. It's beyond. I mean, we get the police escort into Boston, into the Boston Commons. Once I pull into Commons, like the Rangers there on horse to escort me into the parking spot, the staging area, I guess you want to call it. And I mean, people are just applauding, clapping, waving their little Nova Scotia flag, like it's really, really a nice feeling.
I assume this gets you in the Christmas spirit?
Oh, yes, for sure. It's just everybody is so excited about seeing it show up. And like you say, it's really nice. Gives you that warm feeling.
For sure.
Bring a little bit of joy, I guess, to people at these times.
Which is what we need nowadays.
Which is what we need for sure, Ashley. Yes.
That was Blake Sardi talking about delivering Nova Scotia's annual Christmas tree to Boston as a yearly thank you for all the help they provided in a time of need. This tradition started more than 50 years ago. Last week, thousands of Bostonians and people from Nova Scotia gathered for the annual tree lighting.
All right. Mayor Wu, if you're ready, just get next to that switch and we're going to start the countdown. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Flip the switch!
At the tree lighting, Nova Scotia's Premier Tim Houston spoke with CTV News about what the tree represents.
When the Halifax explosion happened, it was devastation in the city. 1,600 people died, thousands injured. It was just a really bad time. But the good people of Boston found out about it, and they sent supplies within 10 hours up there. And we remember that. We remember that kindness. And this tree is our way of saying thank you, and we'll keep saying thank you.
The tree is now on display in the Boston Common, and Blake Sardi says he hopes to have the honor of hauling it again there next year. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Running on ultra-low sulfur diesel? Stay protected this winter with House Diesel Treat and Diesel Lifeline. Steer clear of gel and ice with North America's #1 trusted brand. Find House products nationwide at select retailers, auto parts stores, truck stops, and on Amazon.com.
When it's time to overhaul your truck engine, help protect it by insisting on a genuine Vibrotech TVD crankshaft damper. Heavy duty, absolute premium quality, and they're made right here in the USA. Find a dealer at ViberTechTVD.com.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide. Vendor choice. Owner-operators rejoice. Truckdown.com.
Landline Now, welcome back. Like tires, fuel, and an engine, insurance is one of those things you just have to have for your truck. But not all insurance is created equal. Ashley Blackford is here with the experts from OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department to answer some questions.
Thanks, Mark, and hello to Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waske with OOIDA's Insurance Department. How are you doing today, ladies?
Fabulous.
Great. Wonderful. Today we are talking about getting insurance after you get your own authority. What have you commonly heard from people in this situation who have called in looking for coverage?
Usually, in my experience, a lot of the times they're looking for guidance because some people are familiar with what they need to have, but a lot of people aren't. They know they need liability. And I guess that's the short answer is usually looking for guidance as opposed to saying, here's the exact coverages I need. We are more likely to start a journey of education. Mm-hmm. Here, now I won't say that about every insurance. Yeah.
What are some of the things that someone should get on for insurance if they have their own authority, or does it vary?
Well, they have to have primary liability coverage. That's the coverage they need that activates the authority. Either $750,000, that's the minimum. $1 million, most will go with that. And then they'll need cargo. They don't need it to activate the authority, but they'll need it for their loads.
Do you find when people call they are knowledgeable, or usually they need some guidance, like you said?
It varies, in my opinion. A lot of people, when they're leased onto a motor carrier, they kind of learn the ropes through that. Even though they don't have to carry those coverages, they're familiar with them. They know, generally that it's on the truck. And a lot of times, like Lisa was saying, primary liability is the one that activates it. And that's really the only one required by law. And usually those are the conversations that we have with folks who are kind of new to this. Cargo's not required by law, but it's going to be required by the brokers and shippers that you haul for. So they're going to set the limit that you need or what you have to haul for them. Sometimes general liability. I mean, it can vary really depending on what you're hauling and who for.
Now, in my first question, I'd said we're talking about people getting insurance after they get their own authority, but you really do recommend probably calling, like OOIDA, who does offer, a variety of services and education before you get your own authority. Is that right?
100%.
Definitely.
Now, can you explain how does the process work if someone does call in for a quote that they just got their own authority, they need coverage?
Well, typically they'll start with our prelim group to see what, do they qualify for the program? They do. They'll go on to an agent, and the agent, like we said earlier, will help educate them, basically tell them what they need, and then they're going to go through their operation. How many trucks, what kind of experience do they have, what radius are they going to travel, type of freight, things like that. And then they'll submit it to the underwriting group who hopefully within 24 to 48 hours will come back with a rate.
How important is it for the person to be upfront and honest about every incident, accident, and ticket they've had?
Honestly, that's where, it seems the most reasonable to be as upfront and honest as possible. Or as far as you can remember. We have the small situations where someone's like, I thought that was 3 years old already or something like that. But the biggest reason that we need that kind of transparency is because we really don't want to increase the rates later. And that's what we see a lot of times in the industry. Either insurance agents are doing the bulk of their underwriting after the coverage is bound, or something comes up that we were unaware of. And a lot of times it's a pretty significant increase. And the coverage is already expensive. Even if you get a good rate, it's not cheap coverage, and it just is what it is. That's going to be anywhere. But the agents don't like to call people and tell them their rates have increased. And it's just not something anyone wants to do. And so that's why we encourage, like, the more upfront you are in the beginning, the less likely that you're going to see an increase in rates later. And especially kind of going back to what we were saying about looking into this before you get your authority, that's the time that you're supposed to be gauging your overall cost. So you have to figure out what you're paying for insurance, what you're paying for permits, what you're paying for, a variety of things. Are you using a factoring company? How much is that going to take out of your overall pay? All of that really determines what you need per mile to pay the bills. And so if you base that on a certain rate and then it changes later, like it's changed the dynamic of all of that planning.
Can you call before you get your own authority and get a quote of what insurance could be if you went that route?
You can, for sure. Sometimes if you're not that far in the process, we may ballpark, give you kind of an estimate. And usually those are pretty close, but not exact. But I would almost recommend that, like Trina said earlier, before you actually get the authority. That way you can plan. You can have an idea of what you're going to need to have or make per mile to make it.
And, we mentioned the importance of being upfront and honest. One thing I found interesting, this isn't just, in your trucking career, this is also in your personal vehicle, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if we're being real, I recommend being upfront and honest in every aspect of life.
Well, exactly, yes. If you take anything from this, that's what we want you to take. But yeah, talk to me about, what are some common things that people think, well, that shouldn't matter when it comes to truck insurance?
Well, you mentioned personal vehicle, and that is, some of the times when we found out something later, it's not because we get lied to all the time. It's not like every time we find out about an accident later on in the process, it means someone's been dishonest. A lot of times it's true uncertainty about what information we need. So we'll find out about an accident and they'll say it wasn't my personal vehicle, not realizing that still impacts this quote or this policy. Or like I said earlier, sometimes maybe they think it's over 3 years old or 5 years old or however far back the insurance company goes. Lisa mentioned off the air, sometimes it's a non-preventable or like an animal strike, and they don't realize that is something we need to know.
And do some people hold back that information hoping like, well, I want a cheaper quote. I'm not going to be super upfront about everything, but you do digging, right?
Yes.
The underwriters?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we get your work history for you, who you've worked for. We call those companies, we verify, so if there's something out there, we're going to find it. So better to be truthful up front.
Now, when somebody's given a quote, that can change during the underwriting period. How long is that period typically?
That can vary per your state. Some states will have a 30-day, 60, 90, 45. It's just going to vary, but they do have that time to dig further into it and try, look for anything that wasn't given to us up front, and it could change your rate.
Now, you say change your rate. Does it ever go the other way? Like you'll call me back and say, you know what? We quoted you too high. You're going to save some money. Has that ever happened?
Not that we're aware of.
No.
We laugh about that because truly not that we're aware of. But in all honesty, I know this goes for us. Again, I don't know about other insurance companies, but we're trying to give you the lowest rate up front. Any discounts we think you can qualify for, any type of credit, anything we can do to help the rate from being too high, for your budget. Like I said, it's high enough as it is, so we want to make sure that we're giving you the best rate we possibly can up front. So that's why we typically only see increases after the fact, and so far I've not seen a decrease.
Okay, all right. You let me know if that ever happens.
Will do.
How important is it to know about an insurance company's cancellation policy if someone obviously isn't honest or forthcoming? Their policy can get canceled. Is that right?
Definitely, especially within that underwriting period. Some companies will have, a cancellation clause or policy that says if you cancel within a certain amount of time, or if we cancel you, you may not get any of your down payment back. Or they may prorate the policy where even though it's canceled, you might still have to pay more because of that cancellation clause.
And a lot of the times, it's a pretty hefty down payment. Most places finance the annual premium. And so you're looking at a good 20-25% of the annual premium up front. So when that happens, when you pay that large chunk of down payment and then something comes up later where your policy gets canceled, there's a chance that you might not get any of that back. In fact, and I won't go too far into this because I don't know what the resolution was, and I really only got bits and pieces of the actual issue. But I got a phone call, just a general query from someone else in the building asking about someone who had canceled their policy but still owed the finance company. Like, because they financed the annual premium, there's a third party involved. And there was something where the finance company was like, hey, you still owe us, though. And the customer, didn't realize that there's a third party involved. And that's all I could say. It depends on the contract. It depends on, what was signed, what's in writing. It's hard to speculate on how that should go or what the resolution would be, but I wasn't surprised by it.
Yeah. Now, if an insurance company does cancel your policy, the company has to give 35 days notice to FMCSA. Explain how that works and how that could impact things.
Well, I think FMCSA requires that as a protection to the insured. That way they do have time to find another policy so that they don't lose their authority. Because if they don't have active insurance filings, their authority is going to go inactive. So it provides them hopefully enough time to find somebody and find another policy. That's where knowing the cancellation policy can come in handy because you've just paid this big down payment and then all of a sudden you're canceled and finding another company and having to pay another big down payment.
Why is it so important to ask about the cancellation policy, even if, say, I'm calling an insurance company that I'm planning to go with, I want to, have them insure me? Why is it so important to ask that?
In my opinion, it's just to be proactive. Even if you have been honest and upfront and there's no reason that you can think of that the policy would be canceled, you still don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes they can submit your information to the underwriter after they've taken they'll submit it before they take a down payment, but there's enough that comes up after the fact. We've even seen where someone has brand new authority, binds a policy, and then after they've made that down payment, the agent comes back and says, oh, sorry, turns out that this company doesn't write coverage for brand new authority. I don't think that's happened often, but we've heard rumors of that happening in the industry, and that's something that you can't prevent. You pay that money thinking everything's good, and then all of a sudden this issue arises. And so knowing that up front, just being proactive and knowing, okay, should something happen, here's what I'm looking at. Maybe not getting any kind of refund, maybe like Lisa said, a prorate. It's just knowledge is power.
And lastly, what information should someone have handy if they are calling, looking for a quote for insurance?
To have your equipment information, year, make, model, VIN number, have your driving information, driver's license number, a 3-year work history. Who you've worked for, dates that you were there, phone numbers.
Or been insured with.
Yeah, or been insured with if you've had a previous insurance. Kind of know those dates because we all think we remember, but when you're put on the spot, you don't.
Yeah. All right. Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waskey of OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department. If you have any questions about insurance, you can call 816-229-5791. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. We'll be back after this.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
At Truck Stop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. One of the most important, if not the most important committee in Congress from a trucking perspective is the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. The committee, which is traditionally one of the largest on Capitol Hill, is where many laws and regulations that affect your daily life ultimately originate. With a new Congress, there may or may not be a new chair of that committee. Here to fill us in on what's happening, who's involved, and why it matters to you is Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. Colin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, glad to have you here. As I said at the beginning, this committee is extremely important, but why in particular is it important who the chair of that committee is?
Yeah, I heard you saying that, and I was thinking while you were chatting, while you were mentioning it, and I thought, it is kind of the most important committee, and I'm laughing because it seems so obvious now in hindsight. Because in the Senate, jurisdiction is split between a couple of committees when it comes to trucking policy, but over in the House, Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is the name of the game, so it is very critically important to us, and who leads it is also very important. Right now, we're in kind of unprecedented times as far as determining who the chair will be of the committee, whether it be the current chair, Sam Graves, a Republican of Missouri, who has been leading the panel for the last few years. He recently received a waiver to go beyond kind of the term limits Republicans have imposed on committee chairmen to lead the panel for a fourth term, which is not unprecedented, to be totally fair. It's happened in other committees, but it is usually not something that you see very often. And he is going up against Rick Crawford, a Republican from Arkansas, who is the current chair of the Highways and Transit Subcommittee of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So both men are very qualified. Obviously, they've been leading panels that oversee trucking issues for a number of years. And while we're relatively agnostic, no one wants to upset a potential chairman by backing someone prior to their own colleagues electing them. I think OOIDA is in a good position to continue some of the success we've had with the Republican majority in the House under the chairmanship of Sam Graves or Rick Crawford.
Well, let's talk a little bit about these two guys real quick. And I want to start, of course, with the current chair, Sam Graves. And obviously, we've talked about him a lot on the show because of his sitting in that position for so long. But for folks maybe who aren't aware, what can you tell us about him and especially his background on trucking issues?
Sure. He's been a long-time member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. We're talking decades here. And he used to represent OOIDA headquarters out in Missouri, but during some redistricting, his lines moved just across the street, I believe it is today. So we do have a long history with Sam Graves, a long productive history, if we're being honest. He's been really good on a number of issues for professional drivers and small business truckers. So a continuation of his chairmanship would certainly be productive from our perspective. He's demonstrated a willingness to address the specific needs of small business truckers through legislation, which we're very pleased about. And I don't think we have quite the history with Rick Crawford, but we've been developing that over the years because, as I said, he's been chair of the Highways and Transit Subcommittee, which has hosted Louis Pugh, our executive vice president, as a witness at hearings recently. So we've certainly developed that relationship with Congressman Crawford. He comes from Arkansas, which, as most folks know, is a large trucking state. It's a large corporate trucking state, if we're being honest. But he has also shown an interest in a lot of the issues that are specific to small business truckers and professional drivers. So I would be pleased with either taking over or maintaining control of the committee, simply because, look at it. Our biggest priority, truck parking. That bill went through the subcommittee, went right up to the full committee, passed both under the leadership of Chairman Crawford and Chairman Graves. So when we start talking about our priorities coming up in 2025 and the reauthorization of a highway bill, which is covering a lion's share of trucking policies, I think we'll be pleased with either. I'm being very diplomatic here, but that's also just the truth. I mean, we want to start rolling back regulations that don't make sense. Both of these guys are going to be there with us on it. We want to get things like truck parking done. Both have demonstrated a commitment to advancing that issue and taking it off our plate, which would be great. So we're looking at a strong 2025 on the T&I committee, no matter who's in charge.
Okay. Well, outside of who just gets the most votes, what are some of the factors that are going to determine who gets the nod? What are the members of this committee looking for in a chair?
Well, a lot of what Sam Graves is saying is that we're in a transition period with the Trump administration coming in, and in the next Congress, there will have to be a highway bill rewrite passed through Congress. So he's saying no one's more qualified to do that than me, the chairman of the committee for the last couple of years. Rick Crawford, on the other hand, is saying, I know Sam Graves got this waiver, but the point of having term limits is to bring new, fresh ideas into things. And if we're redrafting a highway bill, maybe it's time to have some new, fresh views. But by and large, when it comes to trucking issues, like I just said, these guys, there's not much space between them. I think, again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. We're pleased with either one of them leading the panel because we have built good relationships with them, and they specifically have addressed key issues for small business truckers and professional drivers.
Well, we've got a little bit of time left here, Colin.
Sure.
I know there was another topic you wanted to get to that's kind of hot in trucking right now, and that's broker transparency. Mm-hmm. We do have a rulemaking out, basically a proposed rule that FMCSA is taking some comments on, and OOIDA is encouraging truckers to speak up on this.
Absolutely.
Let's start with how they do that. I mean, how do you make your comments on this proposal?
Well, the easiest way is to sit tight if you're an OOIDA member at this point, because we are issuing a comment guide later this week that will help you navigate the process and help you refine your messaging so you can provide a really substantial comment to FMCSA that will help in our efforts to get a final rule completed that ensures a little bit more broker transparency than what we have right now, which is very little. The rulemaking won't be a home run, but it's certainly going to be a good first step to ensuring brokers are compliant with the existing transparency rules. So that message will be going out to OOIDA members later this week. And frankly, when it does, it will be up on fightingfortruckers.com, which is a resource anyone in the trucking industry can use to file comments on the docket for this FMCSA rulemaking. So check that out later this week as well. We'll be promoting it on social. So there won't be a lack of awareness that the comment guide is now available.
We have maybe just about a minute left here, Colin, and I'm wondering if you can give us a little peek ahead here at this comment guide. I mean, you said that this is to help people make really substantial comments.
Sure.
What is included in that kind of thing? What is not?
Well, we're going to give you some clues about how to write comments that really get the attention of federal regulators. And the key is to just share your experiences. If you've had trouble accessing records, defending yourself against BS claims that brokers have tried to move forward, we want you to be sharing that experience not only with us as an organization, but certainly with FMCSA as they advance through this rulemaking process. And I think the comment guide will give folks a laser focus on what is most important to include in your comments. And I know our members are highly frustrated with the lack of broker transparency, but you can't just inundate the agency with all of your complaints and your frustrations. You have to refine it and make sure that you're focusing on topics that are really relevant to this rulemaking. And the couple that I mentioned when we first started here, like BS claims, that's going to be a big one. And we're certainly going to encourage our members to let the agency know that following through with this rulemaking would provide a lot of security to drivers, frankly, and improve a lot of their interactions with brokers. Now, brokers certainly aren't going to be saying the same thing, which is why we need drivers, especially those who have bad experiences that they can share, weighing in on this in great numbers, because we've seen with other rulemakings, that's how we best get things done here in Washington, is to have a groundswell of support from our members who are commenting directly to the docket. And that's what we're going to try to do this week when we send out a CTA and post our comment guide.
Okay, well, Colin, we're out of time, but thank you very much for the information.
Thanks for having me.
That's our show for today. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
chrome,
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.